Raila Odinga. Now, the electoral body IEBC this morning got a major setback after High Court Judge Justice George Odunga ruled that the manner it gazetted the returning officers from tomorrow's repeat poll was illegal. The judge in his ruling said that the gazettement of the officers violated Elections Act, and he observed that IEBC should have notified various political parties as well as independent parties at least 14 days before the elections. Lawyers for both IEBC and respondents gave their reactions to the ruling. And our reporter, Sophia Wanuna, has been covering that for us. She now joins us live from the Milimani Law Court. Sophia, what then does this mean? Sophia, very good afternoon to you. What then does this ruling by Justice George Odunga mean?
Good afternoon, Akisa. Yes, today that ruling from Justice Odunga finding that the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission irregularly gazetted the returning officers and their deputies at the constituency level in a gazette notice dated 12th of September without engaging with the parties, and that's the political parties, as is a requirement in the regulations of the elections. And I'm joined by counsel for the applicant, that's Willis Otieno, who's an advocate of the High Court. He was party in this case, as I mentioned. And Willis, talk to us about this coming at this particular point, because we're hearing from the Jubilee side saying that the judge also decided not to quash the gazette notice, in essence saying, let the officers continue with their work.
That is a very interesting observation. The judge did find that the process of appointing these officers was illegal. Full stop. Anything beyond the illegality by itself, the consequences are clear for all to see. The judge need not to go ahead and say that now I quash, stop working. Once he has made a finding that that process is illegal and contrary to the regulations, then common sense should prevail even within the commission itself and know that you cannot continue that illegality. That process has been condemned and that process now is illegal.
Yeah.
That is the final determination by the court. If the court does not quash the gazette notice, it does not in any way at any given time now cure the process and make that process legal. It is still an illegal process, and anybody who purports to act on the strength of an illegal process, whatever they do will also be an illegality.
Yeah.
Yes, so that even if tomorrow any of the returning officers whose appointment has been found to be an illegal process were to proceed to conduct the elections in the manner that they had already initially been appointed,
right,
they will be engaging in what amounts to an illegal act. And there may be legal consequences if you engage in an illegal act, and this may actually be personal to the officers.
Right.
Yes.
What was the submission by the IEBC? Did they explain to the court why they did not engage the political parties in this particular case?
Unfortunately, the IEBC did not have any strong reasons why they failed to give all political parties the list of proposed names for persons to act as returning officers. No such explanation was given. All they came to court was to tell the court that it's public interest, please allow us to continue with these officers. And the court in the judgment, if you read it, the court actually discusses that public interest is that the law should be obeyed. And if the law says you must give political parties those names, then you must give those parties those names as directed by the regulations.
Yeah.
IBC failed to do that. Public interest is for the law to be applied.
Yeah.
Yes.
Paul Muta, counsel for IEBC at the Supreme Court earlier, speaking to journalists, said that there is still time following this ruling to engage with the political parties as IEBC. Is there time?
There is time to engage the political parties as IEBC, but that time must be at least 14 days. So they must give that list to political parties for a minimum of 14 days, and then they gazette those names as final list of returning officers. And before they gazette, they must take into account whatever representations political parties and independent candidates will give as regard to persons who are being appointed to those offices.
Yeah.
So the time exists, but the time is 14 days.
Yeah.
You cannot say that the time is available is for today only.
Yeah.
You cannot do it because the law is very clear. And that provision of the regulations, Regulation 3, it is couched in mandatory terms. It shall provide to political parties for a minimum of 14 days the list of proposed nominees to serve as returning officers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Finally, do you say
so
this?
That, the point is that if he wants to give the list today, then the net effect of it is that those elections cannot be held tomorrow. Those officers cannot act tomorrow. You only count 14 days from today.
Right.
Then you gazette the list, then you can have elections.
Going by the developments of the Supreme Court earlier, it looks like the election will actually take place tomorrow. Then do you say that Judge Odinga's ruling today, in essence, makes for a presidential petition challenging tomorrow's election very proper in as far as a strong case?
My reading of that judgment is that the returning officers' appointments having been declared illegal, those persons who are initially carrying out or passing off as returning officers cannot perform the functions of a returning officer, properly speaking. So that tomorrow we will not have returning officers who have the legal mandate to execute those offices. If the commission, by any stroke of luck, can come up with returning officers legally by tomorrow morning, then they can proceed the elections. But if they cannot, then what will happen tomorrow will be an illegality, in my view.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the significance of these returning officers being shared with political parties before they are gazetted is what?
The main purpose is, and the judge discusses that in his judgment, the main purpose why this list is gazetted is to engender the principles of the Constitution, the ones that are captured in Article 81 of the Constitution, the principles of transparency, the principles of accountability, the principles of integrity, to make sure that the persons who are being appointed to act as returning officers are persons who've been vetted by political players, and they are persons who enjoy the confidence of the players in that political contest.
Yeah.
So it was meant to cure, the mischief that was meant to cure was one where you have persons who may be partisans overseeing critical components of elections at the constituency level. So that was not done in this particular instance, and the judge has actually found that the failure to do so is illegal.
Is illegal. Thank you very much. Willis Otieno, advocate of the High Court, Akisa. And significant, you will find this ruling because returning officers at the constituency level, remember the minor case of the Court of Appeal is that's the final result. So whatever comes from these officials is what is upheld at the end of the day. So in regard to this finding going forward, it will be interesting to see how events unfold.